Hi, it's Jane Minton here. Welcome to the presentation on stress management. I'd like to tell you a little bit about a variety of things having to do with stress today, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Stress is really a normal part of our daily lives in a number of ways. There are two main types of stress. Eustress, which is stress from a good source, and distress, which is stress from a bad source. Eustress is the kind of stress that something wonderful is going to happen or something good is going to happen, and you're really all excited about it, but it's really a very stressful event. The most excellent example that I can think of for eustress is a wedding. Distress, on the other hand, comes from a bad source. It could be anything that's negative in your life that has you worrying about things. And of course, these things vary from person to person. What may be eustress for one person may be distress for another person, and vice versa. There are four primary sources of stress in the world. The first of those is environmental stress, which we deal with all the time. There are many different kinds of environmental stressors. Physiological stress is just that. It has to do with our bodies. Thoughts, probably some of the most serious stressors we have are our thoughts. And of course there are social stressors of all different kinds, having to do with people. Some examples of environmental stressors include noise of all kinds. It can be just an irritating noise that's going on, or a big noise that is really troubling you. If you live near an airport, that is a very excellent example of stress caused by noise. On the other hand, I work in an office in a college and have various kinds of noise that affect me and cause stress. One of them has to do with the workmen around the college. When something is being built and I hear the drill in my office when I'm trying to work with a student, it can be rather annoying. Then there are sometimes students who make some noise that is troublesome in a variety of ways. Sometimes it's good noise and sometimes it's not so good noise. Any kind of environmental pollution that affects one's physical or mental well-being, whether it's the air or whether it's perhaps trash thrown somewhere that affects someone. Living near a pig farm would be a good example of pollution caused by an environmental stressor. Traffic, probably the most common stressor we deal with on a regular basis. Every single morning I get up and drive about 30 miles to work. I have to deal sometimes with big coal trucks. I have to deal with farm equipment. I have to deal with pokey people. This morning on my way to work, the man in front of me was driving 30. Yesterday on my way to work, I was behind two motorcycles and very reluctant to pass them since one was pretty much going down the middle of the road. These are examples. Any kind of traffic can cause us a hassle. Dense population is one thing that is an environmental stressor. If you've ever lived somewhere that's really crowded, the dense population means a lack of space for yourself. I was in Shanghai, China not too long ago, and the apartment buildings were very tall, and in the city there was just nothing green anywhere except the parks. So the people who lived in these very tall apartment buildings would come out to the parks to spend their free time. And it was very crowded, and a number of the people who were on our trip were disturbed by the crowding. Crowds in general can be stressful. If you've ever been to a big concert and felt like you're mashed, and how would you get out of the place if something went wrong, that's another example of crowding. The weather, of course, is again a very common stressor for all of us. People have various reactions to storms. Some people aren't very disturbed by the weather, but then there are times when you hear the siren go off to take cover for a tornado, or the television goes out or the power goes out, and you're wondering, now where is that storm? Okay, let's look at some ways of classifying stress. There are different things that cause us particular kinds of stress. One is deprivation, when we are deprived of something. Certainly being deprived of food or water or any of the basics of life causes us to be stressed, but there are also other kinds of deprivation. Danger and catastrophe are certainly horrible anytime they're presented and do cause stress. Life events of all different kinds cause stress. Job changes, divorces, promotions, good and bad life events cause stress. As I mentioned before, weddings are very stressful on everybody that's involved. Many life events. Threats to self-esteem. Anytime someone questions your ability to do something or puts you down in some way, that is certainly a stressor. But there are other ways that we can stress ourselves by threatening our self-esteem. Doing something that you think is really, really dumb, or something that someone told you not to do, can cause you to look at yourself and say, now, why did I do that? And be very questioning in your ability to make a decision about yourself, and the fact that we all make mistakes. Sometimes we just have to put those things in perspective, but it's still very threatening, especially if there's another person contributing to that. Frustration and conflict are also very, very stressful. When we're trying to do something and we just can't seem to get there, or when there's conflict. Now, frustration and conflict affect other people in different ways sometimes. Some people don't mind conflict. Some people like conflict, actually, but most of us do not, and we do find that it causes us stress. There is internal stress. There's external stress. External is caused by an outside source. And internal stress is caused from within. For example, the person who is the type A personality, the win-win-winner, the person who wants everything perfect, the go-getter who is going to have everything be the way that he is. And statistically, it is shown that these type A personalities are more prone to have heart attacks, for example, and to have other health issues. Another internal type of stress is the locus of control. So that concept is a psychological concept having to do with who you think is in charge of your life. Is it you who can make the decisions and you who makes things happen, or do you feel like things are out of your control? Learned helplessness is another example of an internal stress, when things have happened to a person over and over and over, so that he finally or she finally feels just helpless and sort of gives up. That can be very stressful. And of course there's the worrier, and I have to say that I'm probably one of those who is the worrier. I read somewhere that that the majority of the things I've worried about in my life that have caused me great deals of stress have actually never happened. And I agree with that. That's true about me. I tend to worry about everything. Murphy's Law, if something can go wrong, it will. So most of the time it doesn't. It's just that's an internal thing that I have to deal with myself, and sometimes probably so do you. There are serious side effects of stress. Our health, of course, mental well-being. If we are stressed, we can only take so much, and continued stress is certainly worse than an occasional stress. Our physical health also can be affected. People get, because of stress, people can get ulcers, they can have headaches, they can have all kinds of stomach problems, they can have just everything that can go wrong, muscle tension, all sorts of things. Of course, our performance is a factor that comes into play there as well. Our performance at home, how are we doing? If we're worried about the things that we need to be doing at school, are we getting things done at home? And do we let all these things come into play and take on too much sometimes, so that we really can't devote adequate time to the things that we need to get done, and then therefore it causes us stress, and we may worry about it, or we may jump down to the next section about with relationships. We may find that we're cranky. We may find ourselves snapping at our family, no time for friends, or snapping at our friends, or telling our friends our problems, and maybe sometimes too much. Work relationships can sometimes be tricky if we're having problems at home. School relationships and getting along with our classmates, our teachers, and the things that we need to do at school, all these things can be affected by stress. The other morning I was reading something about stress, and got up the next day to do something, and it was not a good day. It was one of those days that started off wrong, and I was very worried about something and stressed about something, and got in the car and came to work. And usually I'm okay when I get to work, but the first thing I did was knock my coffee over. And I didn't knock the coffee over because I didn't know how to pick up a cup of coffee or didn't know where I usually put my cup of coffee, but I was stressed and I was therefore clumsy because I was worried about something. So there are serious side effects and not so serious side effects that can affect us. Let's talk about some causes of stress in college students. I think probably the number one cause of stress among most college students is not enough money. It's very hard to have enough jobs, to make enough money, to be in school and have all the things that you need to live on when you're in college. They talk about poor college students, and that's generally an appropriate description. Another source of stress in college students is academic achievement. So many students worry about their grade point average, and well, you should worry about it. You should be concerned about it, but not probably worth all the worry that there is. I have students with straight A's who say, oh my gosh, I got a C. Well, a C is not the end of the world, and certainly not in the long run in the big picture. But students worry about tests, about how they're going to do on tests. They worry about their grades. They worry about deadlines. Oh my gosh, is this coming up? I don't know what I'm going to do. Oh gee, I've got all this going on in my family, yet I've got a paper due on Monday. So it certainly is a legitimate source of stress. Unrealistic expectations are another source of stress. I cannot tell you how many students think that they should be making straight A's when really most people do not make straight A's in college. That's really kind of unrealistic. It's also unrealistic to expect that you're going to read a book and write a good book review and have it typed and ready to turn in on Monday if you just started reading the book on Friday. So that partly has to do with planning and time management, but the students actually think that they're going to get these things done in that short a time. Time urgency, too much work, and pressures, social pressures as well. Friends and family wanting students to do things when they can't. I remember at one point in time when I was married and in graduate school, and my husband begged me to go on a picnic, and I had a paper due the next day, and I remember saying I just can't do that, and I really, really, really wanted to, and of course I was very stressed because he was really putting pressure on me to stop what I was doing and go have some fun with him. Oftentimes there's a change in eating and sleeping habits when we're in college for a whole variety of reasons. There's no one cooking for us. We can't afford to eat out very much. And so sometimes our eating and sleeping habits don't turn out so well. We stay up late when we probably should get more sleep. One thing I've learned over the years is that if I stay up and try to study anything after 9 o'clock, it's a waste of time. I just simply don't remember it. So when I'm in school, I do try very hard to get to bed early and find that that has been more helpful to me probably than studying for that extra hour. But changes in eating are common. Who has time to cook a full, complete meal when there's a test coming up tomorrow? What we do is we get fast food, or we get frozen food, or we just snack. And those things certainly are not good for us when we're trying to be at our peak so that we can do well on the test. Extracurricular activities are another source of stress in that we want to do those extracurricular activities. We want to have some fun and enjoy things, but sometimes there are some serious pressures from the organizers of those extracurricular activities, or maybe you're playing ball and you've just got ball games scheduled at the same time you're supposed to be writing a paper, and all that comes into play. And of course, the stress-prone diet, of course, is coffee, tea, cola, chocolate, and not getting enough vitamin C and B complex. And that has been defined as a stress-prone diet. And many of us live on coffee, tea, and cola anyway. And certainly chocolate is a good picker-upper for a lot of people, but not if that's all we're living on. Dissatisfaction is another cause of stress. I can't tell you how many students come in and say, I want to change my major. I want to change my major. I'm not happy with my major. I'm not happy with this teacher. One of the things about college is sometimes one of the things I tell my students is I didn't say you had to like it. I just said you had to do it. And that sounds harsh on my part. But if there is a requirement for a course, yes, do it and get it past you and get it done with. Dissatisfaction tends to cause us stress in a variety of ways. If we don't want to do whatever it is that we're required to do and we put it off, then it's just going to get worse and worse. I remember reading somewhere about motivation, that people are motivated for only two reasons. One reason that they're motivated is because there's something that they really, really want, so they want to jump in there and get it done to get whatever it is that they want. The other reason for motivation is something that they want to get over with, that they just can't stand being nagged about or worrying about it anymore. And I thought that was kind of an interesting and probably accurate description of motivation. Breakups, of course, are common at all ages, whether it's 18-year-olds or whether it's 50-year-olds. I have students of all ages who have breakups with boyfriends and girlfriends. It seems that sometimes the boys have a harder time with a breakup than the girls do. I'm not sure why that is. Perhaps girls confide more in their friends and boys don't, so they don't have enough support. I don't really know the answer to that, but breakups are certainly stressful. Part-time and full-time jobs are stressful. I have many students who have more than one job, and any kind of job that you have to be sitting there doing whatever it is, or standing there, or doing whatever your job is, and you're worried about the paper that's due tomorrow, or you're worried about your family or something, definitely that's plenty of stress. In college, we oftentimes have roommates. People perhaps are not married, and we're stuck with crowded situations with roommates, or noisy roommates, or roommates who don't keep the apartment clean. That can be very, very stressful, and I have lots of students come in and talk about that, about their filthy, dirty roommates who don't do the dishes. And also who don't give them enough privacy, who'll come in and borrow their things. And I think that causes a great deal of stress for a lot of people. I've had good roommates over the years and bad roommates over the years, and yes, the bad ones were just horrible. Another source of stress is parental expectations, the pressure of being mature, that we're supposed to be grown up, when in reality, I don't know how grown up most people are in their early 20s, but I certainly was not. And I think that's stressful, and, parents sometimes do push us at that. Too much studying and not enough physical activity, that can go the other way as well. You can have somebody who's not paying attention to their studies because they're out doing their physical activity. But it does tend in college that we tend to sit more and not get enough exercise, which is stressful. Probably the top one of these things that is really hard to deal with is loneliness. Someone who's transferred to a new school, someone who's alone at Christmas, or alone during the holidays, or on vacation when everybody else is on vacation and that person is not. It's very, very stressful and very displeasing. Okay, let's talk about some ways of assessing stress and finding out when we're stressed and we're not stressed, or what might make us stressed. There are some signals about stress. There are lots of signals, as a matter of fact. Some of them we're aware of, and some of them we just don't pay any attention to until we realize, oh my gosh, why do I feel like this? Some of the physical signs of stress include muscle tension. This is one of my primary sources of tension and stress, is that I don't realize until all of a sudden I think, oh my gosh, my muscles are all tensed up. Another sign is illness, that we can get sick or feel sickly, so to speak, or we get real sickness from being stressed. High blood pressure is a problem for many people. I tend to have my blood pressure go up when I get stressed. Indigestion, that's another common one. Many people have upset stomachs just because they're stressed for no other reason. Sleep issues are a problem. Sometimes people can't sleep at all. Digestion issues kind of goes along with the illness, but digestion, we have to be pretty healthy and calm in order for everything to go through our body in the way that it should. So when we're stressed, things can get hung up somewhere along the way and cause problems. Fatigue is another problem, that we just work and work until we're just too fatigued to continue on. Or perhaps we're easily fatigued when normally we wouldn't be. Aches and pains of various sorts, including headaches, as you see below, but various kinds of aches and pains. And sometimes we tend to be accident prone. Those are all physical signs of stress. The example I gave you earlier when I came in and spilled my coffee was a good example of accident prone. Oh, I remember now what the situation was. I'd driven to work and gotten a lightning storm, and the lightning was striking all around me, and I had an instant headache. And when I got here, I was very, very stressed, and that's the day that I knocked my coffee over. Some emotional signs of stress might be depression, anger, fear, anxiety, I'm sure we've all experienced most of those before at some point or another. We might make a note that depression is the top of this list. There are various kinds of depression. Sometimes depression is a result of something that is a natural occurrence. It's not like clinical depression. For any of us to feel sad or bad, we may say we're depressed, but there's a difference between that kind of depression and clinical depression. I remember one day going home from work and wondering why I felt like that. I felt almost what I would have called depressed at that particular point in time. But I thought about the day and thought about the things that had happened in the morning, and I recalled the specific incident that had upset me. I'd still carried that all the way through my day and carried it home with me. Anxiety, as I mentioned, can, again, that can be a serious problem, so can anger. But we're talking about, in this case, pretty much normal anxiety, normal anger that affects us. If it becomes serious to the point where it needs attention, then certainly one would need to go see a medical doctor, a psychologist, or a psychiatrist for help with it. Sometimes we feel overwhelmed. That is probably my number one stress feeling, is that I feel overwhelmed, like there's so much to do that I just can't possibly get it all done. And then I develop other things to go along with that. I get anxious, I get headaches, I do all those things. So I would imagine that some of you do some of those things too, and it doesn't hurt to look at these lists and think about how do we manifest the signals of stress in our bodies. Some people manifest in mood swings. Again, this is not like bipolar disorder. This is someone can be cranky one minute and pretty much happy the next. We're just maybe easy to snap or easy to get down about something because we are stressed over something. And again, self-esteem issues come into play. Excuse me. We seem to think we should be able to handle everything, and when we don't, sometimes we're very critical of ourselves. Cognitive stress signals, we may be forgetful, forgetting things that we certainly should not forget things. We may have unwanted or repetitive thoughts, particularly about whatever it is that's stressing us, and we just want to get it over with and get it out of our minds. Or we may have difficulty concentrating. Any of these can be stress signals, and they're really pretty much normal until they start to become a problem, and at which point one really should seek medical attention or counseling in order to deal with them. Let's look at some stress surveys and assess stressors. If the PowerPoint will let us, we'll be able to click on this and go to a life stress scale. I'm not sure that it will. It's not looking too good here. But I will give you the address of that life stress scale later in the PowerPoint. Another one is at Morehead State University Life Enhancement Office, and it's a stress survey made for college students about how stressed are you. Okay, let's talk about dealing with stress. The wellness approach. There are things that you can do with stress. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the wellness approach to stress prevention. Things that you can change. One of the things that's mentioned is your attitude. And I think that's kind of sometimes a hard thing to change, but it can be done. Are you a person who looks at the glass and thinks of it as half empty? Or are you a person who looks at the glass and thinks of it as half full? And there was a time in my life when I was dealing with some very difficult things, and I had to remind myself at the end of every day of some of the good things and the right things that I had done that day in order to get myself out of the situation that I was in. And by doing that, it helped me look at some of the positive things, because there were positive things. It just seemed like everything was negative. But sure enough, I could find some positive things. Sometimes we have different sources of changing our attitude. One of the things I do personally is go out into nature and sit by a tree, or go to the woods, or take a hike, or do something like that to remind myself of the bigger picture of things. Another thing that we can do is to practice healthy eating. And healthy eating is, of course, following the basic food groups and trying to eliminate all the nasty stuff we put in our bodies when we're not aware of it. Chemicals, for one, sugars that we don't need, junk food, actually making an effort so that we're eating 3 meals a day, and those are balanced meals, and drinking plenty of fluids, and basically taking care of ourselves nutritionally. Physical activity is another thing that we can change, yes. Whether it's physical activity that involves something small, maybe just taking a short walk several times a day, or getting out to just look around at the rest of the world. Maybe physical activity for you would be playing a sport, something that you truly enjoy, and getting back into that. Perhaps it would be going to the gym. Some people really like going to the gym. Some people like running. If those are things that are things you enjoy, try to be sure you do include those, and don't avoid those when you are a student. And sometimes that's the first thing to go. Relaxing your mind and body could come from a variety of ways, and things that you can do that only you can know what those things are. Some of us can just relax. Others can't necessarily do that. I'll have some exercises toward the end of this workshop to help you come up with some ideas about how to relax your mind and body. Some easy things. The first one, for example, is breathing, and learning how to breathe in a regular fashion and slow your body down so that you actually do relax. Sleep, of course, is important, and again, that's one of the things that seems to go when we are short on time. Healthy relationships. It's good to find healthy relationships. It's also good to get out of bad relationships. And that's a very personal thing, and a very difficult thing. If it's not a permanent relationship, it's a little bit easier to get out of sometimes. Sometimes we need help with that, and possibly going to a counselor of some sort to talk things over and find out, really, is it just as bad as I think it is, or is it worse? Or is it not so bad? Are there things I could work on, or my partner could work on? Time management is something that is really pretty much misunderstood, I think, when we come to college. One of the things that's really good to do when we're talking about time management is to get a calendar that shows the entire semester. If not the entire semester, then one that you can look at with months. Not a daily calendar, but a monthly calendar, so that you can write all your assignments on there, so you can see well in advance. I remember having different calendars when I was in school, and one day flipping the page from the weekend and seeing that I had something due on Monday morning and hadn't been aware of that. If I had had a monthly calendar, I would have seen that weeks before and known that it was coming up. And then it was too late to do a really good job at what I had to do. So time management is important if you can look at a calendar and plan ahead and do ahead, and try not to save everything for the last minute. One trick that I learned for myself when I was in school was that whatever was due, such as a paper or a project or something big, I made the due date a week before it was really due, because Murphy's Law would come into play. Sure enough, I remember one time in college, and the paper was due on Monday, and I was at my home typing it up on my computer, and this was long ago when we were in the days of floppy disks, and I had not saved the computer or the program anywhere on a disk. I just had saved it on my computer, and a lightning storm struck outside and fried my computer. So that was the end of that. Had I done this a week before and just had to maybe proofread or something, I would have been all set. I would have saved it, and I would have had probably a hard copy and maybe even turned it in early. Now I know to do that, and it's much less stressful doing it that way than doing things at the last minute. Alcohol and other drugs are something that don't help us manage stress. Sometimes that is what we do when we think we need to relax, and in small amounts. Alcohol is probably a good thing. I teach death and dying, and one of the things that I know is that moderate alcohol does correlate with a longer life expectancy, but not over alcohol. And one main problem with many college students is that they overindulge in alcohol on the weekends, sometimes in between as well. But there's a lot of alcohol abuse among college students, and other drugs as well. The other drugs are probably not good in any respect ever at any point in time and don't help. And people say they don't lead to another, but sometimes they do lead from one to another. So it's something where one should have some serious caution. Tobacco is something that I'm surprised to see how many college students smoke. Tobacco supposedly relaxes you. I have read recently that it's really not the tobacco that relaxes you, it's the fact that you are breathing evenly and stop stressing to have a cigarette, so to speak. And that, of course, is not healthy for anyone. Money management is certainly a challenge for many of us, students in particular, because it's short. And finally learning how to live on a budget is probably one of the best things that college students can do, and know how much they have, how little they have, and when they're going to be receiving it. Receiving financial aid, you know ahead of time what that amount will be, and you know probably at least roughly when it is that you're going to receive it. So that should allow for some planning as to how long that money's going to last. Last on this list, things that you can change, is spirituality and dealing with your spirit and making sure that it's healthy. This is different things to different people. If you're a churchgoer and you haven't been going to church, perhaps that's something that you could do to make yourself feel better. If your sense of spirituality comes from another source, from the outdoors or from sitting thinking or yoga or whatever it is that you might do to get in touch with your inner self, your spiritual person inside you, that's something that can certainly be pretty easily addressed when you are in school. There are some general relaxation techniques that are used commonly. One of these is visual imagery, whereby either someone else reads something or speaks something that takes you to a place that is relaxing, or you imagine it yourself, or you just carry through a scene for several minutes that is a relaxing place. Oftentimes this involves the beach or the woods or somewhere where you've been before. I've worked with students for many years, and I found that lots of students, when they were children, would go to a safe place when they wanted to get away from everybody, and oftentimes this place was a tree or something out in the yard, bush that they would get under, and they could just be by themselves. So over the years, I've had several students who, when they were stressed, imagined that they were in this particular place. I've had other students who said it was their bed, and they imagine that they're safe in their bed, and that brings their stress level down. Another thing that can be done is to use aromatherapy. And aromatherapy is a very interesting sort of therapy. Different aromas seem to have different reactions, response reactions from human beings. Some things settle us down, some things wind us up, and there are many ways to get aromatherapy to help you relax. Perhaps it's bubble bath, perhaps it's candles, perhaps it is one of those little wicky things that draws the aroma from a bottle and lets it flow into the room. But there are a variety of ways, even spraying something that smells good, or even cologne for that matter, if you put it on and it makes you feel good. Breathing is very much a relaxation technique, probably the number one and probably the easiest to do at any point in time. I'll have some breathing exercises available for you to try a little bit later. Another is progressive muscle relaxation. Progressive muscle relaxation has to do with tightening areas of your body and holding them tight for just a few minutes or seconds actually, and then relaxing, and then holding them tight again. And I will take you through some progressive muscle relaxation, not a whole hour's worth, but for a short period of muscle relaxation. This works often when you're getting ready to go to sleep at night. If you find that your muscles are relaxed, you can do this, and before you know it, you're asleep. Massage is great if you can afford to pay for it. It's great. If you don't have a way to pay for it, but you have someone who's a friend or partner who's willing to do this with you, and maybe you take turns, that massage is a great thing. Laughter is probably the best. And when's the last time you laughed? I think when we're stressed, that laughter may be one of the first things to go, because we're so busy worrying about whatever it is that we're worrying about that we don't take the time to spend time with friends or do things that are fun and funny. And when was the last time you had some fun? Fun goes along with it in that we miss it when we get busy when we're students. Calming music is something that you can do any point in time. You can turn the stereo on when you get home and listen to quiet music or the radio, as opposed to music that will gear you up. One of the things that we'll talk about on another CD is the idea of learners who can listen to music and study at the same time. Put on quiet music, turn the lights down, or turn the lights up for studying if that's what you're doing, and relax a little bit before you get into the studying thing. Some people can listen to music while they study. I can't do that if it has words, but if it's just music without the words, it really works great. Let's practice some guided imagery. The idea here is for us to relax, take our mind somewhere other than whatever is stressing us, and just see how much we can enjoy the beach. So I'd like you to sit back comfortably. If you want to close your eyes, close your eyes. Every now and then you might want to look at one of the pictures on the screen. Or just keep your eyes closed. Clear your mind and breathe deeply, slowly, and naturally. Gradually relax deeper and deeper as you tune into the rhythm of your breathing. As you continue to relax into the easy rhythm of your breathing, imagine that you're standing on an ocean beach, listening to the sound of the surf, watching the waves ebb and flow with the rhythm of your breath. As the scene comes to life in your mind, pay attention to all the details. Take as much time as you need to examine every aspect of your beach. Notice everything. Perhaps there are clouds high above. Notice all the details of your beach. The sand, the rocks, the dunes, the beach grass, and the tide pools. Smell the salt air and feel the wind as it blows about you. Become comfortable and familiar with the entire setting. Now allow your gaze to focus on the movement of the water before you. Watch a wave roll in and fall back. Watch another roll in and fall back. And another, and another. As the waves continue to surge forward and recede, feel the motion lull you with its hypnotic repetition. The motion of the waves brings to mind the greater motion of the tides. As the waves come in and fall back, the tide surges in and rolls out. As you continue to focus your attention on the ebb and flow of the waves, reflect on the much larger surge and retreat of the great tides, pulled by the moon and swayed by the motion of the earth, constantly in and out. in and out. Now concentrate on the in of the wave. Imagine each wave as the tide itself. Focus your attention on what occurs when it comes in. It heaves a little out there in deep water, hardly noticeable at first, except as a moving bump. Then at a certain point, you notice the wave begin to rise. The wave is gathering up all its hidden power, the force that lay beneath the surface until now. In it comes, growing and gathering up its hidden power, the force that lay beneath the surface until now. In it comes, growing even bigger. As the wave nears its destination, it seems to move faster. Now, you'll see it curl over, flash a comb of white, and press in as far onto the sand as it can go. Watch as the wave breaks and comes rushing in with a final burst of energy. Hear its triumphant sound. You watch several waves come in this way. Feel each of the stages the wave goes through on its way in. As you watch the waves press in, allow yourself to remember a time when you felt like the waves coming in, powerful, energetic, and flowing. Identify yourself with the waves as you relive this time. A time when you were filled with energy. You pulled yourself together and rushed toward your goal with high expectations and confidence. You seemed to grow physically larger, like the wave. Soon you were so committed to your goal that nothing could go wrong, and you could not consider drawing back. And that's when you crest and surged up onto the sand, spending your last ounce of energy and achieving your goal. As you relive this sequence of achievement, identify how the action of the waves coincides with the stages of your surge toward your goal. Now that the wave is high and safe on the beach, let your gaze rest on the highest point the water reached on the beach. There's a darkened area, perhaps a line, where the water sinks into the thirsty sand. This is where the water stopped and left its mark of accomplishment. Soon it will have to pull back and regain strength for its next push. Now you begin to notice the signs that the water is receding. It settles in the tide pools and then drains away. Ridges are etched into the sand as the water races back out over it. Pebbles clatter into the surf. Concentrate on the action of the wave ebbing from the sand. Observe everything that is affected during the going out: the sand, the rocks, the water. Other waves are coming in, but you're focusing on a single wave going out. The water races down the expanse of the beach, out to where it collects itself. As you watch the water go out, allow yourself to remember a time when you did the same. Recall the most recent time when you did this, a time when you were pulling back, retreating, because you needed to gather your resources together. Perhaps you were a bit defensive, maybe a little on edge, but you retained some perspective that helped you pull your necessary resources into yourself. Like the wave, you were going out for a time. Relive this time of gathering energy as you watch the water recede. The water has gone out as far as it must. Focus your attention on the point it has reached. There's a tautness out there, a coiled energy, and you feel it inside. A tremendous amount of power is being amassed in one place. Feel the power. Freeze it for just a moment, and think about where you would want that energy to go. You're about to let it rush in. Now imagine all that energy slowly surging in and rushing up onto the beach. You feel it rush in, reaching as far as it wants to go, all the way in to the highest point. Now that you've experienced the surge and the fallback of your energy with the tides, you're gradually going to return the water to its natural rhythms. The tides are coming in and going out, and you're watching from your vantage point on the beach. The water's out there, and you're here, safe, breathing easily in your own natural rhythm. Allow yourself to relax with the entire setting for some time. The beach, the soft wind, and the clouds. Continue relaxing, and when you're ready, open your eyes, and we'll continue in just a moment. The preceding reading was Beach Tides from Guided Imagery for Groups by Andrew E. Schwartz. I've used that in relaxation exercises for years. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about progressive muscle relaxation, which is the idea of tightening muscle groups and then relaxing them. It would be great if we could go through the whole body and do this now, but we really can't because of time. So what I'd like to do is talk to you about something from Kansas State University, from their website. They use some ideas with breathing and progressive muscle relaxation and suggest what you could do before tests. So here is what they have to say. I'll give you just a couple examples of these. It may sound crazy or simple, but here's what you do. Begin every class, every study session, and every test by psyching yourself down. Before the instructor begins to lecture in your class, get your paper and pens out, ready to take notes. Then take a couple of minutes to relax yourself by using some of the brief strategies that I'll describe. Do that before and then practice relaxing for 2 or 3 or even 5 minutes if you can. So here's technique number 1 suggested by Kansas State. Briefly tense your body by tensing and holding your muscles. So you might want to do this as you're listening. Tense your muscles, your whole body, hold it, and then relax. Raise your toes and hold them high while tensing your legs. Tense your buttocks, clench your fists. Take a deep breath and hold it while clenching your teeth and closing your eyes tight. Hold everything tense for just a few seconds and let it go and relax. And enjoy feeling that letting go feeling. When you first do this, you'll notice that the old habits take over just as soon as the instructor begins lecturing. You start to grip your pen a little more tightly, maybe your shoulders tense up. So practice how long you can make the more relaxed state last. A few seconds at first is typical. Over the time you do this, you'll be able to make it last a minute or several minutes. It's a great way to begin anything tense, whether you're at the dentist or you're at the tax attorney or doing something that you really don't want to do. Okay, let me give you another suggestion. Technique 2, Kansas State University. With your eyes closed, so you might want to close your eyes, shift your attention to the tip of your nose. As you breathe in, become aware of the air coming into your nostrils. Feel the temperature. Does the air feel different? Be aware of the air coming in, and as you breathe out, be aware of the sensations of the air passing back out. Notice that the air coming in tends to be cooler, and the air breathed out is warmer. Cool air in, warm air out. Focusing on any physiological process, air in and out, can help calm a mental activity. One of the things that I usually do with my students is teach them how to do triangular breathing, which is making their breathing very regular. We tend to get our breathing going fast and don't exhale enough when we get excited, so that tends to cause hyperventilation sometimes. But if you will count, say, to the count of 5 and breathe in to the count of 5 and then out to the count of 5 and then in to the count of 5 slowly, hold it to the count of 5, out to the count of 5, in to the count of 5, hold it to the count of 5. And as you do this, you will slow your body down and it will become more relaxed. So yes, focus on the tip of your nose and start to breathe in and out normally, and then slow the breath down and count it and hold it and exhale until it's a regular sort of triangular breathing thing. Okay. Another technique that they have while seated, raise your shoulders up, back, and down. Up, back, and down. Roll your shoulders this way 3 or 4 times. Without everybody in the class thinking you're crazy, you can do this very quietly. Slowly twist in your seat, look over your right shoulder, and then you feel some stretch in your lower back. Exhale, breathe in, then twist to the left. Feel the stretch in your lower back. And that feels pretty good to do that. What you're doing is you're preventing the muscles from getting so tense. So, according to Kansas State, the quickest way to learn any new skill is to practice it over. So you might want to try practicing this at home when you sit down to study, or practicing it before a test. And I do know that these things work. I've done relaxation workshops at the college for years, and I use one particular spray that I spray when I go into the room. It's sort of like an aromatherapy. Well, no matter how tense I am or no matter what's happened during that day, after all these years, the minute I spray that spray, I suddenly relax. So a lot of it has to do with the way we train ourselves to do things. So if you can train yourself to relax by doing some breathing or doing some tightening of the muscles and then relaxing, you can train yourself to relax when you want to. Take a deep breath. As you slowly let it out, let your jaw and your shoulders relax, and relax the grip on your pen. If you can become aware of the consciously become aware of your tension, you're much more likely to be able to do something about it. So I hope you've enjoyed listening today and talking as we have talked about stress, stressors, and some relaxation techniques and tips. And I hope you've enjoyed the program. Thank you.